And with that, I will shift to the second testimonial. And I'll stipulate at the outset that this makes me sound like a dumbass. So I'm sharing this as a public service to the audience. I would have mentioned it last week, but I first wanted to formally apologize to the Greatest of All Talk audience. But I'll start with some background. After the holiday, it was my first day back after 10 days of vacation. I put together a rundown for our NBA podcast, and I went to ChatGPT to retrieve the details of the DeMar DeRozan sign and trade from the Chicago Bulls to the Sacramento Kings. Ben, are you ready for me to sound like a dumbass? You can jump in if you want to scold me for even thinking.
Yeah, well,
to
I
do
think
this
you. I think
at
you
the-
already. I
at
think
the
you already
outset here.
crossed the line because.
I've crossed the dumbass threshold.
Well, I
here.
mean, this is why our friend here. There's a lot of knowledge online about machine learning and how to use it for a project, and the magic that he accomplished was bringing to bear this broad knowledge base onto a specific problem.
Mm-hmm.
I think the challenge you are going for is not overall understanding of a problem, but specific details about a transaction that happened after the knowledge cutoff for ChatGPT. Is that what happened?
It's really disastrous. Yes. DeRozan to the Kings was a 3-team trade between the Kings, Bulls, and Spurs. ChatGPT, I was on my phone trying to put together the rundown. ChatGPT completely omitted the Spurs aspect of the transaction. For some reason, that did not set off alarm bells with me, because I thought, oh, well, I can recite the Spurs aspect of the trade by memory because that was the most interesting part of the deal to me. So I knew those details offhand. The details I didn't know as well, and for some reason did not even double check after noticing a glaring error in the answer that ChatGPT gave me, were what exactly was exchanged between the Bulls and the Kings. So I just read what ChatGPT reported to me on the podcast. ChatGPT traded a player who wasn't actually traded a first-round pick to Chicago that Chicago did not actually receive, completely ignored the Spurs again, and also gave me the wrong contract terms on DeMar DeRozan's contract. So I am here to warn people, and I'm not sure how much this warning is worth because we have a very capable, tech-fluent audience that most likely would not make the same mistake I did. But do not use ChatGPT as a real-time information resource.
Well, I mean, to be honest,
I was very, very upset with myself.
Knowing like the circumstances, you're coming off of vacation, trying to get stuff together for a rundown. You can see how this happens. Number one, I appreciate you bearing the cross of embarrassment for our audience here, but I think it's really interesting because what you articulated is actually where I think a lot of people go to when they think about the possibility of this. I'm crunched for time. I got to get something done. Just throw it into the AI. It gives me the answer. And it is a big problem that is the worst possible use case for AI, right? Like the number one, you had a few problems. Number one, because you wanted real-time information, maybe Perplexity would have done better because Perplexity is like pulling on the real more explicitly, but you're getting into sort of what's called RAG, where it's going out and it's searching the web to get the information because it's not in its knowledge base. The knowledge base cut off for GPT 4.0 was like April or something like that. And so it doesn't have the recent stuff. So it has to go out and find it. And then it has to like somehow navigate the whole internet. And, there's trade rumors, there's actual trades, there's all sort of details.
There's fake trades being proposed in different articles around the internet.
Things that might happen.
I think that's part of what happened there.
And so just real-time information is a problem. Number two, even if it's in its knowledge base, you run the risk of the hallucination problem where it just gets stuff wrong or it makes sort of stuff up. And there's a bit where the more specific you are, sort of the more likely that can happen. Now, that problem is better. I think it's not nearly as bad as when ChatGPT launched, and a lot of people are still sort of anchored on that. So 2 points. Number one, anything real time or anything where it has to go search is just asking for trouble. And this is a problem because the key use case by and large is this sort of RAG where you go and search documents and find it. It's why the sort of citing sources is important, and you have to actually go to the source and verify. But there is a mismatch between the level of convenience afforded and the amount of trust you should put into it. And what you see with the internet generally is convenience wins all the time. And that's a real reason for concern. And I thought this was interesting to talk about, because I know you feel bad about it. And if I were you, I'd be horrified. I probably wouldn't let us talk about it. So everyone needs to salute Andrew. But I think this mismatch is really, really interesting and a real fundamental problem. And the reason I wanted to talk about our friend in contrast is the extent to which it is incredible. It really is incredible. He has a personalized tutor walking him through and meeting him at his knowledge level, right? He's actually very highly knowledgeable generally, but he has this gap in his base. And in the power that you can imagine of having a personalized tutor is like, you can see how this would be so sort of valuable, and he's experimenting, right? And the thing with code is it has to either run or not. So like if it screws it up, he'll tell you, he'll paste it back in, he'll get sort of the error back, and or it will solve it itself. Like there's a bit where what he's doing actually is so complicated and there's so much effort. He's talked about how he's been working with ChatGPT for months on it, and that is so counter to what is actually the perception of what AI will do for you and what it's being sold as, which is a saving you time.
That's the thing. The way it's being branded and marketed, I think, leads to some of the confusion.
Well, that's how it's experienced,
consumers.
right? It's branded according to
yeah.
All of AI has this problem where it's all anchored on that first experience, which is, oh my God, this is incredible. And like, oh, look at someone did this demo. Look at that demo, so cool. And actually there's tons of problems when it comes to the actual implementation and actually making it work.